All right, everyone, we'll go ahead and get started. I'm gonna go ahead and introduce Tiffany once again. You wanna go ahead and take it away?
Thank you. Thank you so much. Hello, everyone, and welcome back, entrepreneurs and developers. We are in our third week and we're moving right along. Let's see. So today we have a special treat. As we said, we're going to continue to bring you information and also resources that you can go to and find out information and things like that. We do have our guest speaker, Ms. Christy McCray. She is the executive director of the Louisville Affordable Housing Trust Fund. So hopefully you guys have brought your questions or any information that you've been wanting to know, or as you listen and those questions come up, please feel free. We are going to be managing the chat room, so put those questions in the chat and or use the hand raise symbol, and we will make sure that we get with you. And we're not going to delay any longer, and we're going to go ahead and have Ms. Christy take it away and provide that wonderful information for us. And we just truly thank her for being a part of this and taking time to educate us. Go ahead, Ms. Christy.
Well, thank you, Tiffany. I appreciate the introduction. So I have a presentation. We'll just go through that. And as we go through the presentation, if you would write down your questions, and then when we get to the end, we'll just go through those questions, if that's okay with you, Tiffany, or they can put them in the chat as we go through so you all can capture those. So I'm going to share my screen. Can you all see the screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good. So basically, we're going to talk about the Purpose-Driven Developer Academy, which you all have been in for, I believe, the last 3 weeks, and we're just going to talk about the trust fund. So what is what we call it is the LAHTF, and I'll give you a little bit of background about myself, so I apologize. My name is Christy McCray. I've been the executive director for almost 6 years now of the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. Previous to that, I have a career that includes banking. I was in banking and went into various positions from retail banking all the way through community development. Then I switched over to the nonprofit world and spent time at the Housing Partnership and the Louisville Urban League, and did some consulting on my own as well in community development prior to ending up at the trust fund. So what is the trust fund? The trust fund is basically, it was created by Metro Council in 2008 as an entity to invest additional local public funds to address the affordable housing shortages that we have for individuals such as working families, seniors, people with disabilities, veterans, or others whose wages are not enough to live in Louisville. We all know that in Louisville, it's expensive, but our motto is a place to call home, opens the door to opportunity, and the whole community does better when everyone has that decent place to call home. I'm going to talk a little bit about funding in the last few years. In 2016, we were awarded $2.5 million. And I think that was, as far as Metro Council was concerned, kind of our test money to see how we would do. The money was allocated in 1 month and they were pleased, and the rest, I would say, is history. In 2017, we were awarded $9.57 million, 2018, $10 million, 2019, that was the year when we had all of the budget restrictions. So that was $5 million. It was the year when we were battling pension shortages, Louisville Metro was. 2020, 10 million. And basically, we all felt like 10 million was that number. If we could get 10 million at least earmarked for the trust fund annually, we could make some dent into the shortages in the Louisville market. Sometimes the money comes with restrictions. So in 2020, 5 million of that was restricted to $5 million for single family home ownership opportunities in basically areas of high vacancy and abandoned units. So if you think about the West, Newburgh, what we really call tax deferred districts, those are the areas where the 5 million was restricted. We still have about 3.5 million of that left. So we're working off that as well. In 2021, we received another allocation of $10 million, and it has to be split between the households that we monitor. So I'm going to talk about AMI in just a little bit, area median income, but 2.5 million was restricted to be used for households with incomes up to 30%. Another 2.5 for households restricted with incomes restricted up to 50% AMI, and then the rest for up to 80% AMI. And then in November, we were awarded $40 million through the American Rescue Plan to fund housing for households with incomes up to or less than 30% area median income. So a little bit of the development highlights and what we've done over the few years. A total of 3,242 units have been either created or rehabbed and preserved as affordable housing through June 2021. And we've already added since that time another 300 units from the 2022 pool, but that's where we were as of June. And another thing to always remember about trust fund money is that half of all of our money that comes in from Louisville Metro must be used for households with incomes that do not exceed 50% area median income. So if you think about what is that, that's a family of 4 that cannot make more than $38,750. So we're talking some low incomes. And of course, that's gross income. So you see why the need is so prevalent. We have a lot of incomes that don't make that type of, a lot of households that don't have that income. So therefore, we have to offset and help the developers who are working to create those units. Area median income. And Tiffany, let me ask you, have you all already gone over what area median income is?
No, ma'am, not yet.
Okay, so I'll get into this then. So when you hear someone say AMI or area median income, what are we talking about? This is a HUD number. Most of the time you will hear, especially for other social services, you will hear talk around the poverty level. However, when it comes to housing, HUD looks at that midpoint and then works from there. So when we say area median income, the median income basically is the number that divides the income distribution in two. So you've got half the population make more than this amount, half the population makes less than this amount. So when we talk about low income are the persons that make 80% or lower of the median income. So we anticipate seeing a new median income. It usually comes out from HUD in April of each year. So we're not there yet. We're still working off of last year's numbers. But as of last year, the median income for Louisville, Kentucky, for a family of 4, because it is driven by household size, for a family of 4 was $76,900. So once again, half the people in Louisville make more than this, half make less. So it's really the midpoint. So when I say 80% of that number, here's the chart. And it's not a guess, we give it to you. And HUD gives it to us. So you don't ever have to wonder what is the median income. You can go directly into resources like Google or go to our page and what have you and find out what the area median income is. And again, when I said 50%, I was talking about that 38,450 number. But as you see, when I'm talking about 30% AMI, a family of 4 can't make more than 26,500. We're talking very low incomes, some extremely low incomes, but we have a great need for housing for those families. However, as a developer, you got to look at it like this. LG&E doesn't care that you can only charge X amount of rent for a unit because you're serving a 30% AMI. So what has to happen is there has to be what we call subsidies somewhere. And that's what the trust fund provides. We provide development subsidies or gap financing so that your project will cash flow. And that's the simplest way to make it, to sum it up. We provide that gap financing that will allow a project to either be feasible or not. Fair market rents, and this was the 2021 number. This is the number that we would consider that would be the maximum rents based on that 80% number. So as you see, Louisville rents are high. So based on the area median incomes, you'll see the increase, and I anticipate it will go up again this year. For 2021, an efficiency was considered affordable at $649. And as a lot of people will say, oh, $1,000 a month rent is high. It is, but in the Louisville market, $1,229 per month for a 3-bedroom is considered fair market rent. So if you think about it, we have some work to do in our community because that's a lot of money to a lot of households. It's a lot of money to me. And when the one thing to think about is that this is rent plus essential utilities. So you're talking LG&E and water. So even though your rent is $1,229, let's say you're anticipating the LG&E to be 80 and your water to be 20. I'm gonna make it easy for myself. That means that your rent could not be more than $1,129. Does that make sense? So that's the $100 for utilities. So if I'm looking at fair market rent of $1,229, that means that I've got to back into what my rent really will be based on what the estimates for my utilities are. The one thing I tell everybody is development is simple math. It's a addition and subtraction game. And that's the one thing that you have to get comfortable with is the math, because either a project works or it doesn't. And I know that's hard for a lot of people to understand, but it's just math. It really is. It's a math project or math problem. And when it works and you can make the numbers work, then a lot of times your project will be able to move forward. Okay, so what are we dealing with in Louisville? Back in 2018, 2019, we partnered with Louisville Metro to put together a housing needs assessment. And this actually is from the Metropolitan Housing Coalition's State of Metropolitan Housing. So what we know is that nearly 2,200 single-family homes in Louisville have some type of visible exterior issues. We know there's an affordability gap between the races. We know that in 2019, 2020, nearly 5,000 students in JCPS were unhoused. They didn't have a stable home. There was not a stable place for them to call home. And most of them were Black or African American. We know that nearly 72,000 households are what we call cost burdened. And what do I mean by that term? When I say cost burdened, I mean that these are households that are paying more than 30% of their gross income for housing costs. So what does cost burdening do to a family? What it does is means they have less money for other essentials. So they have less money for food. They have less money for clothing. They have less money for meds or whatever else the family may need. So in order for a house to be considered affordable, it means that you should not pay more than 30% of your gross income, that's before taxes, for housing costs. We also know that Louisville has a need for more than 30,000 units of housing for those households with incomes less than 30% AMI. We also know that we have a need for all housing with incomes, all populations, all families up to 100% AMI. So a lot of people say, where are all these people if we need these if we have these needs? Well, you got people doubled up. You have people couch surfing. Look at the streets. Look at the homeless shelters. You're talking about the most vulnerable families in our city. We have a great need of affordable housing for them. So from the housing needs assessment, these are where I got these these numbers that I just talked about. As you see, the unmet need is in orange. So the unmet need lessens the higher up the income AMI chart that we go. However, what's telling us there still is need all the way up to 100% AMI. We just have a lack of housing, affordable housing in this community. So when a lot of people want to build a lot of McMansions, so what we call McMansions, as you see, you got a surplus of those. And those that are in them, a lot of times they may be paying more than 30% of the AMI. I mean, 30% of their gross income. But because the 30% of 100,000 is a lot more than 30% of 30, they can stand it. They can sustain it a little better. So we're not as concerned for those households who may spend more when they are have richer incomes. Here's the homeownership charts. So as you see, whites have a 70% homeownership rate, whereas Blacks and Latinos, 36 and 37, but Blacks at the bottom. Asians, 50%. So we have a lot of catching up in our community with homeownership rates. So let's talk about some realities that happened over the last few years with COVID. Due to the increased lumber and other building costs, a lot of lenders are providing more dollars per unit, more cost per unit when they are lending funds, because we all recognize that building costs have gone up exponentially. We all know that it costs more to provide a homeownership opportunity. However, it will result in fewer units produced annually. However, it is the key to truly stabilizing a neighborhood. It is the key. Homeownership is the key to truly stabilizing a neighborhood. We've recognized at the trust fund that we will forgive a portion of the project debt if someone is willing to serve the lower income populations. We also have a need for more permanent supportive housing projects, such as those that provide not only housing, but maybe addiction services or workforce training or mental health assistance. We have great needs in this community. And the bottom line is that in order for the housing experience to be successful, many times a household may need help in other areas in order to make everything work. Okay. And then we're doing more training opportunities like this Developers Academy in order to help our developers create successful opportunities and applications. Let me skip that one. That's old. I'm sorry. It's an old one. So like I said, for this year, we had $10 million allocated for fiscal year 2022. 9.75 million of that will be used for development activities. That is rehab, reuse of vacant abandoned properties, mixed income projects. And I already talked about that breakdown. Once again, 2.5 million reserved for units for households up to 30% AMI, 2.5 million for households up to 50% AMI, and the other 4.75 for up to 80% AMI. We are hoping, well, we still have more than $3 million remaining for homeownership projects, as I mentioned, located in areas with high concentrations of vacant and abandoned structures. The funds can be used for construction. There may be some repayment due at closing to a buyer, and we have ranges of interest rates all the way from 0 to 3%. We are hoping that at least $3 million will one day come back to the trust fund so we can continue to do what we do in repayments. And then when we create a forgivable loan or we agree to forgive a loan, there usually is some type of affordability period that goes along with that. And it's just going to be based on the project itself. And then the last 250 is what we use for program administration. So the focus this year, once again, homeownership opportunities in those urban cores and the areas of high vacancy and abandoned properties, adaptive reuse. We also like to see developments in non-impacted areas. What do I mean by that? Areas that aren't already concentrated with a lot of affordable housing. We need affordable housing throughout the community, not just in low-income areas. We want to see energy efficient projects, and we would also like to see projects incorporating universal design, which really means projects that contain designs so that someone can age in place. Okay. You know, we are, our population is aging, so we want to make sure that someone can continue to live in their home. So it might have wider hallways, 36-inch doors instead of 31-inch, those kinds of things. Okay, so we give further consideration to applications that mix the income ranges. So we don't want to see a project that just has 30% AMI. We would like to see some 30, some 50, some 80. And the reason for that is we all know what happened in the 70s when they just built a lot of, the housing authority just built, you know, a lot of projects. Warehousing poverty is not, has been proven not to be a good model for housing. So we want to mix those incomes. We want to see projects maybe that incorporate other types of funding, and then align with other Louisville Metro priority areas. Who can apply? Nonprofit developers, for-profit developers, public housing authorities, and housing and homeless service providers. And again, all of our funds must be used for households that don't earn more than 80% of the area median income. Half of that must be served for people with household income up to or less than 50% AMI. Okay. What can you use the money for? You can either, let's say you want to upgrade some housing you already have and you're going to keep it affordable for the next 15 years or so, you can do that. It's construction loan financing, especially for those small developers that are going to do 2 or 3 homes and rehab them for sale. That's construction loan financing. We do gap financing and then low cost permanent financing for huge projects. We have projects as small as 1 unit all the way up to 500 plus units. So I'm going to talk now a little bit about the process. If you wanted to just go through how to apply for funds with the trust fund. So first of all, you would go to our website, and I'm going to talk through this part. It is www.loutrustfund.org, and it's in here later on. And what you would do is fill out a pre-application. That's the area highlighted in blue. So when you go to our page, our programs page, you'll see submit a pre-application and you will answer all of the questions. I can't tell you how many people want to skip something. Please don't skip anything. All of those questions are important for a reason. It gives us a little bit of information about what type of project you're doing. And, you know, in some ways we can correct some errors up front if we know more about the project. Once you get an okay for that, then you would download and submit a complete application. Sometimes it may feel a little daunting. The application itself is not as daunting, but there are a lot of attachments that have to go through this. Remember, this is public funds. These are public funds. These are taxpayer dollars. So we need to make sure that we get everything that we ask for. We're going to ask for photos. We're going to ask for your information. If you're not a business, we're going to ask you for your personal tax information, all of that information, but we're not going to check your credit. We're not doing any of that, but we do go through and look at your experience and what you have done in the past. If you don't have a lot of experience, we may approve you for 1 or 2 properties if you're just getting started. So don't feel like, oh, I haven't done this before. If the application is complete and it makes sense, you stand a chance to be approved. We worked with a lot of first-time applicants, so it can be done. What do we look at in order to approve a loan? We're going to look at the capacity of your development team. So what does that mean? We're going to look at you. We're going to look at who's your contractor, who's going to be doing the work, who is going to monitor the project, what other kind of money is involved in the deal. We're going to look at your project design. Does it fit into the neighborhood? What type of construction are you talking about? Let's say you got a lot from the land bank and you're going to build a new home on it. Is this going to be a brick home? Is it going to be a frame house in the middle of Russell? You know, Russell has a lot of bricks, so you might want to do a brick front. You know, all those kinds of things need to be taken into consideration. What's the financial feasibility? If it's a rental deal, we're going to ask for what we call a pro forma. A pro forma is a document that estimates your cash flow. And what that means is that we're going to look for a specific debt coverage ratio, meaning how many times can you pay your bill? We want to see that you can pay your bill 0.15 times over once, if that makes sense, in order to be approved. And then how close are you to being able to go forward with the application? Do you need a zoning change? Do you still need to buy the property? What other resources are lacking? We're going to look at all of that. If you're ready to go, we hope you are. We're going to be ready to go. So we maintain a rolling deadline. Applications received on or before the 10th of every month will be evaluated for funding within 60 days. If it is after the 10th, it will be considered within the next 90 days. So it's a rolling deadline. If there's an application fee for nonprofits, it's only $150. For for-profit developers, $250. And we do look for the fee within 5 days. But once again, the first step is the pre-application, which is free. These were the deadlines for this year. So as you can see, everything's open. We are in the middle of allocating funds at this time. And we still have money left. So please, if you're ready, move right along. Another thing to think about is if any application is missing something, we won't send it to the committee right away. If it's missing something or there's something in error or something incomplete, we won't take it to our program committee and get you a no. We're going to wait until that application is complete before we take it to the program committee. We have a 3-step approval process. First step is in-house. So myself and my staff will go through your application. and try to make sure that it is as complete as possible. Because what they're doing, or what we're doing, is we're trying to make sure that your paper application is the best representative of you and your project that we can present to this team of decision makers. So you've got to realize that the numbers have to match, the documents must match, it must be complete. So we don't want to take anything to them until everything is complete. The second step is we do a little underwriting and we take it, make a recommendation to our program committee team. Those that sit on that committee, they are other developers. We have some bankers, we have city representatives, we have a representative from the Housing Authority, from Kentucky Housing Corporation, real estate attorneys, advocates. So we all work together. It's a good mix of people that work together to look at and evaluate your project. And then if it moves on from there, the board of directors will make the final decision on your project. Okay. This is some other stuff. It's a lot of legal jargon. This mostly has to do with post-closing, so we can talk about that once your application progresses further. Something to note is that 100% of all projects will be subject to an inspection. So you would have to pay for an inspection at, if it's a single family home, either the halfway point to make sure that you have complied with some of the things that you said you were going to do. We're going to ask you about the efficiency of the furnace. When have you had, some other things like that? What have you upgraded? We want to see all of those things. We want to see the permits. We want to see everything so that we are providing a good, sustainable home to somebody that doesn't have a lot of income. They can't afford for the water heater to go out immediately or the furnace to go out immediately. So if your home only has, you bought a home, you're going to rehab it, but the furnace is only an 80% efficiency furnace, you're going to need to upgrade it so that that buyer, your end buyer, has the opportunity to have some grace time before they have to upgrade their furnace again. Plus, we need it to be at least 90% efficient because, again, utilities will impact affordability for that buyer. We're always thinking of the end buyer. So you need to put on who am I serving and what can they afford to do, okay? These were just the inspection points. Then we will have compliance monitoring. If you're doing a single family home and kind of rehabbing it and selling it, you're out. Once you sell it to the buyer, there's no more compliance monitoring for you. However, if you're doing a small apartment building, there will be at least 15 years of compliance. And then we want to know, do you have any conflicts of interest with the trust fund? Are you a staff member's cousin? Do you sit on another board with somebody? It's not going to earn you a no. We just need for you to disclose it. Okay. If you are upgrading and selling a single family home, we want to see that the buyer has completed HUD approved home buyer counseling and education. We want to make sure they're as prepared as possible to be a sustainable homeowner. And then once again, projects must be inspected and you must disclose conflicts of interest, whether real or perceived. That's our website, bluetrustfund.org. And now, do you have any questions? Tiffany?
All right, thank you so much. That was wonderful information, guys. Like we talked about, you got to be prepared and you got to do the homework. We do have several questions that's in our chat, and let's start from the beginning. One of the questions was, what about ADUs? Can funds be used to build on a homeowner's property for a senior family member who is low income?
Yes, the answer is yes.
Awesome.
We
Is there
were involved
anything?
in that.
Mhm.
Yeah, we
Go
were
ahead.
involved in that fight. Nothing. I'm sorry. We were involved in that change to have ADUs approved by the Land Development Code. That's a big part of what we're doing right now. We have some next steps on the Land Development Code. So keep your eyes and ears open. See what else we can get approved. But no, we do provide funding for that.
Awesome. Next question is, do we need to purchase the property first before they apply?
You don't have to own it yet, but we would at least like to see a contract for sale. So you need to have site control where you may be under contract with that property.
Awesome. Okay. And the next question, is the application fee refunded if not approved?
No, because we've still gone through all the work. And so that is for the underwriting and what have you. That is not a refundable fee. It doesn't guarantee approval. The application fee is for us to advance your application to the program committee.
Okay. When exactly do they pay the application fee? Is it after the pre-application, right?
Right. So you would submit a pre-application. We review what you said in that pre-application. And at that time, you'll get an email from us saying, hey, this looks like something we can fund. So please move forward with a full application. Once you download our guidelines and then download the application and complete it, you submit that application in with all of your attachments. Everything is complete. You should then submit your application fee at that time.
Okay. Yep. That makes sense. Let's see. Hold on, guys. Okay. Can we have a copy of the PowerPoint? Yes, that will be, can you provide that for us and we can share it on our website?
You can, and you know what? I just noticed as I was going through a couple of typos.
Uh-huh.
So yes.
Okay.
I'll make sure, I'll get that back to Janisha.
Okay, that'd be wonderful.
Janisha, yes, and then we can get that, once I correct that, she can put that out there.
Okay, that's wonderful. Thank you. Let's see. Next question. All right. Can you own and rent and still qualify?
I'm not sure I'm understanding the question.
Right, that came from R. Sean Somerville. Can you elaborate a little bit for us? And if you want to, we can unmute you if you want to raise your hand.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, sorry. I was typing quick. I didn't
No
want to
problem.
lose the opportunity. No, I was just asking if you already own the property and you're renting it, can you still qualify for the funds? And you plan to continue to rent it?
Okay, it depends on what kind of money we have available. Like right now, because our affordability period is 15 years, if you just have like a single property, we would discourage having a single unit rental project because it's a lot of work for one unit. As I said, the affordability period is 15 years. You would have to comply with our monitoring requirements for 15 years. So for a lot of those, we would say that if you sell it to an eligible buyer and then do it again and again, that's what monies we normally have available. And I know that's been a question in the past, but it's all about the monitoring. There's a lot of monitoring. We would have to send out certifications to you every year. You would have to certify that your tenant is still income eligible, that you have insurance, that you still own the property, all those kinds of things. You'd have to do that for 15 years. So usually it's more cost effective to do that when you have multiple units.
Well, how do you define multiple? It's a duplex.
So you own one side and rent the other.
I'm renting both.
You're renting both. When we say multiple, most small unit projects I've seen, let's see, we have 8. You have a project with 8. That's been the smallest. So a quad, let's say you had 2 quads. And again, it just, because what are you probably going to borrow? You might not borrow more than 50,000. So over that time, if you think about it, you might spend more than that, or a good sum of that with all the monitoring and the inspections and what have you. It's all, like I said, it's a numbers game. So we're not going to have you do all of that when it's not going to be cost effective. It sounds like it is up front. I could hear you by year 7 saying, I'm tired of this. You know what I'm saying? You would be tired of that, trust me. And that's why we say, make sure that it has, 6 to 8 units, then it might be more cost effective to do it.
Okay. Well, I also asked a question about site upgrades. So while I have you, so would that also apply, or would it also have to be the same scenario?
Site upgrades to a duplex, is that what you mean?
To the site that the duplex resides on.
In terms of what type of site upgrades?
Building an additional structure like a garage, carport, building a sitting area out in the back of it.
Okay.
Things of that nature, upgrading the actual site itself.
I got you. So any monies that we advance have to go into creating or advancing an actual unit. Because remember, I said we have 31,000 households out here that need housing. So we don't just provide house upgrades. Let me give you some examples of some of the projects we've done. In the West End, there has been, well, we're getting ready to go into New Directions is getting ready to upgrade all of its units throughout the entire city. So yes, they have tenants right now, but they have to move them around while they do some really basic things like heating, windows, roofing, those kinds of things. If you're looking at something like a small dollar loan, we actually have small dollar loans, and the city has small dollar loans, but they are different than the developer loans. Does that make sense? When we're talking about improvements, we're looking at HVAC, mechanicals, we're looking at something that is really going to enhance someone's living experience. And it's usually not just aesthetics, but it is going to be so that they can live more affordably. Does that make sense?
It does, but what I'm looking at is a combination of both. So it'd be quality of living, aesthetics, the fundamentals. So window upgrades, HVAC, as you said, the mechanicals as well. Roofing is good. So it would be a combination of both.
Okay. So what you would do for that rental project, you'd have to put together a pro forma. I mean, you can always submit it, but you would have to put together that 15-year pro forma and kind of estimate your cash flows and move forward with that. You submit all those attachments. We would take a look at it. We really would.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. And guys, we're gonna do the questions in the chat room and then I'll get everybody's hands. The next question was, how would they know if we're approved for funds if we have to be under contract first?
You would always add a contingency, a financing contingency in your project. In your contract. And because in the past, I can tell you now, when you do your budget, we don't fund the entire project. We've only done the entire project for some very, very special projects like the 10th Street Y. We like to see some other dollars in the budget. So when you're looking at that, you have to have other dollars so that our monies do not exceed the acquisition. We like to know that you have monies enough to buy the property as well as, once you get our money, complete the work. We've had people in the past that really hadn't had enough money to, they bought the property, then costs went up and they couldn't complete the project. So we don't really like to see that happen now. We would like for you to think forward, think about the entire cost of the project, and to be able to estimate all of your construction costs and hopefully be able to at least provide the acquisition cost upfront. But I would not advise you necessarily to fully purchase the property unless you knew you had the construction dollars coming.
Okay. Next question we have is the application fee per project. For instance, if you complete one project and 6 months later, could you come back and you come back to do another one, do you pay the fee again?
Yes, it is per project because each of those projects must be underwritten separately.
Okay. And so it's the same process, same underwriting, same everything.
And the thing about it is, if you have 3 years to complete a project. So if you know you want to complete in your project 3 homes, say 3 homes up front, and then that's one project. You see what I mean? Don't split it out. Say you're going to do 3, you've got 3 years to do it. Take it all as one project. So
Okay.
when we say project, we're not talking about unit of housing. We're talking about, you might name your project Chestnut Street Rehab or something, but it's going to be something. The Chestnut Street Rehab might involve 5 houses on Chestnut Street, and that would be the Chestnut Street Rehab project.
Awesome. Okay, we have Mr. Will that has his hand up. Will, go ahead with your question.
All right, I have a couple questions. First, you mentioned the costs for inspections that you have to occur over time. Do you have a kind of a sample of what those costs would be?
If you have your own inspections, let's say you've had the city inspector come out, you put in a new furnace and you can provide the permits and the approval on the plumbing and things like that, we will take that. But if you don't have anyone to, we need to be assured that in the application, there's a point of energy efficiencies, that you are actually using CFL light bulbs, that you have put in I can't think of the flow on the lavatory and all those kinds of things.
Yeah, low flow.
Low flow,
Yeah.
right. So we want to make sure that you have put those items in, and if you can document that, that's fine.
Okay, to clarify what I mean by, like, you have your property 5 years, and you mentioned, is there some type of re-inspection that you occur every year after you've owned the property and you're renting it out to somebody or something?
Oh, I got you. If we get a complaint, which we do sometimes, then you would have to incur that cost. You see what I mean?
Okay.
And you're not handling it or something. That's when you would incur those costs.
Okay. Second question is, say you have a property, you're renting it out, or multiples, and you need to sell it for some reason. What happens?
You would just, depending upon, we always have those clauses in our notes. So if there is something there, and it's basically, if you are planning to rent, but you have to sell, that is called, the project would go into a recapture situation. So depending upon what we have agreed upon as a cost per unit, we would recapture those dollars unless you sell to someone who meets the same income criteria of the renter.
Okay.
Okay.
And then the last one, all right, we've kind of touched on this on some subject in the previous meeting, but you mentioned, about the affordable housing in other areas besides the West or Newburgh. And Louisville tends to not want any development no matter what you do. And as soon as you mention low income, and it's outside of those two areas, you tend to get pushback. So if you were doing something like that with this program, is there any difference, or you still have to face the same obstacles with the city or different areas if you want to do a program like this in another area?
Well, if it's single family homes, they don't notice as much. If you know they don't know who the end user is going to be, they won't notice that as much, and they don't fight it as much. If you're going to sell the property, if it is rental, yes, you still have to go through zoning. And well, if it's already zoned, they can't say anything. So that's one thing you can do. Even the big guys look now to see whether or not an area is already zoned for the type of housing they're going to put in. So that's a key. You want to look for housing that is zoned for the type of housing you're planning to put in. That will keep your costs down, and it will cut back on the what we all call NIMBYism, not in my backyard, in the community. So you'd be surprised that there are some areas because somebody's already fought the fight. And or they've already gone through rezoning or what have you. It doesn't, if it's a smaller project, it won't make as much noise, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But if it is a larger project, yes, you're going to have a lot of noise. And you wouldn't be any different than any of the bigger guys that have to go through all of the fights and zoning that anybody else does. But you'd be surprised. We do have projects in East Louisville. We've got projects in Middletown. We have projects out in the Southeast. So it can be done. And what they did was, once again, they found areas that were already zoned.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for the question. Good question. That one, zoning can be a bear simply because of our community.
Me and just my silly logic is just people. If you don't build something, or if we never built anything, you people that are complaining wouldn't be living there. If people say, no, this is farmland, you can't destroy our farm. Like, but anyway, that's just me, my soapbox.
No, that's not just you. That's real talk. That's real talk. This is exactly what happened.
Absolutely. Any other questions? Any other questions? Okay. Well, Miss Christie, thank you so much. Oh, do we got somebody? Okay.
Yeah, this is Kevin Fields. I just want to say hello to my friend and thank her. Thank you, Christy, for what I knew would be an awesome job. And you've got me on fire over here. Just so thrilled that you would join us tonight. I did want to follow up with you offline, and Janicia is going to be getting with you too. There are some data elements in your slide deck that I need like right away for a project that I'm working on. And you'll save me a ton of research if I could get access to that. So, but I just want to say thank you.
She does have the presentation. I just want to correct a few typos before you pass it out to everyone.
Yeah, I just want to pull down some of the data on maybe two of the slides, and it probably won't, the typo is not going to affect me at all for what I need. But thank you, Christy, and thank you for always doing a great job. I really appreciate you.
Thanks for the invitation. Thanks. I hope everyone takes it all to heart. I'm looking forward to us building capacity in our community. We need more developers, especially, the big guys do 300, 400 unit projects, but we also need those that are doing the 5, 6 homes here and there. We need those for home ownership opportunities. There's room. So I hope that you will study. Just make sure, again, development is all about math. Make sure that the information you send in is accurate, that you have thoroughly read everything, and please feel free to call us with questions. Forge out there and let's provide some housing for some folks that really need it.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you so much again for being with us, and definitely we will have that information once you get it to us. We'll have that information on our Google Drive, so everybody will have access to that, and you can kind of take your time and peruse back through it. Like she said there, if you do get stuck, you can give them a call and they will answer your question and help you through that. But the key is making sure that you know what your project is and what you're trying to do with it, and put as much information in there as you can, and accurate information. So absolutely, some great information. I didn't know about the ADUs that you guys do that, so that was a learning experience for me. That is absolutely wonderful, because that is something new that's coming along.
Yes, and it is very new. So,
so a lot of great information that was just given. Very creative. So there's a lot of different things you can do. And like you say, you don't have to do one housing project at a time. You can do several, because you got 3 years to complete that project. So keep that in mind when you are looking at your project. And also, like we talked about before, yes, they are there to help with funding. So you want to have your other funding in place as well.
yes.
Thank you so much. And if you need us, you contact us and let us know. We'll be there for you as well.
Well, thank you for this. And again, thanks for stepping out and putting this together. It's much needed. Very
Yes,
much
ma'am.
needed.
Thank you. And if you want to stay on, you can. If not, we appreciate you. And thank you for giving us your time.
All right. Thank you.
All right, guys. Wonderful information. Again, we are trying to provide everything that you're going to need to get you prepared and get you ready. We'll have that information as soon as it's available out on our drive to get everybody taken care of. Okay. All right. Let's move on ahead. And if you do think of other questions, just let us know. We'll get those back out to her and get you an answer. Okay. All right. Let's see, where are we? Here we are. Let's go back and talk about that money again. Determining how much you can contribute money-wise to get started. Again, that was the whole purpose of the previous exercise, taking a financial look at what you are doing and what kind of project that you want to do, and what do you have that you can contribute to it. Like I said, and you'll hear that throughout, that yes, you can go and ask for money, finance and things like that, but there's still a piece that they want to see. What can you do? What are you going to invest in the project, because they want to see that investment from you as well. So there are a lot of funds out there, but again, they want to see what can you bring to the table. So let's kind of examine that. And where is your sources of funds? Can you pull from a 401k? Do you have an existing property that may have equity in it? And that's another reason why, home ownership is important, because, most houses do appreciate over time, and that creates that equity. This is one of those occasions where you can use equity to your advantage. Do you have a partner that you want to go in with, and what is their financial situation? Can you pool your resources together to do a project? Do you have family and friends that maybe want to contribute and be a silent partner or a silent investor with you? Do you have a savings? Just simply, do you have money saved up for the project? Is there a life insurance that you can borrow from? So all those different type of avenues that you have at your fingertips, what is your financial situation and what can you contribute to your funds? I can say that, with an investment project, if you just got a single family home and you want to buy it for a flip or a rental, you've identified the property, and you go to just your regular financial institute, like we'll just say a Republic Bank. And because it's not your primary, they do consider that an investment home that you're going to use it for. I can tell you that the down payment is a lot higher than a residential. So residential, usually you do about 3.5%, 5%, 20%, something like that. depending on what type of loan. But with a investment property, you're gonna be putting down 20 to 25%. And the interest rate is a little bit higher than your regular residential. So again, those are funds that you have to bring to the table before they'll fund the rest of it. So they will also ask for your P&Ls, profit and loss, your cash flow, and also the proof of funds where your funds are at, whether that's in a savings account and your checkings account, or if you're going to be borrowing against your 401k, they are going to be looking at those funds as well. So again, theme here is 1, you do have to invest in your own project, and then 2, the details. They want to see those details of your finances and the project itself. So those are things to start thinking about. Start saving, start looking at what are your financials that you can contribute to. And again, depending on the project, what you can bring to the table. Any questions on just the what you're going to be contributing as far as funds to the project? Any questions on that? Okay.
I have one question.
Okay, go ahead, Will, and then we'll get Miss Kia. I think I'm saying that correctly. Go ahead, Will.
Okay, I know you mentioned 401k, but what about Roth IRAs?
Mhm.
You can use those. Okay, that's what I was kind of curious about.
And what you want to do absolutely is take a look at any kind of retirement plan that you are pulling out of. Make sure before you pull out of it that you understand if there are any penalties on pulling out of it, or if you can pull out of it, what are the circumstances that you can, because they can differ just depending on if you're with your company. And like you said, your Roth IRA is usually what you do outside of that. So make sure you know the details of your retirement plan, because if you pull out, earlier than retirement, you could have a penalty on that and still pay taxes. So make sure that you understand the ins and outs of your retirement plan before you do anything. But yeah, if they allow you to pull it out, yes, you can use a Roth IRA, you can use a 401k. So any of those funds, absolutely.
Okay.
All right. Yes, ma'am, Miss Stevenson. How do you pronounce your first name? Kaya?
Kaya, yes.
Okay.
So her question was when I was asking her about like funding and how do they go about it, as far as if we already have like the person who's going to fund our project, or we already have the funds reserved to the side, and we went to go submit the contract, we put in there that it's contingent upon the LAHT, and like, how will we know how much they're willing to provide towards what it is that we're willing to do? So that's where I was kind of confused there. Like, we can go say, I want to go buy this and this is my project, but we have these set of funds over here. But what if we don't, get enough to cover it, just based off of going off of what we think they're going to give us? How does that?
Right. I would, and this is just me speaking, but I would look at it probably in the reverse, where you pick what property and how much it costs. Then you go to whoever you're getting funding from and see how much funding you can get. And then the difference I would submit to them. Okay. Because you really don't know how much funding, or you can tell them how much funding you want, but you got to have an idea of how much you want to ask them for. So that's one way of doing it. If anybody has any other way of, or have been through the process, please feel free to share. But absolutely, you want to probably gauge what that project is and how much it's going to cost, but you're going to need that information anyway to submit. And then also getting that funding first from your, normal means, such as a bank or hard money lender and things like that. And if they're not going to fund the whole project, then you can absolutely go to them and see if you can get the rest of the funding.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome. Any other questions, guys? Good questions, good questions. Okay, I will say if you do, and this is an important key, I see this happen sometimes, and it really will break down a project really quickly. If you do choose to collaborate or have a business partner, things of that nature, like I said, you want to make sure that, of course, you guys are communicating and on the same page, and that's wonderful and well, but you definitely want to put it in writing. Make sure whatever the stipulations are, however you're going to fund it, what's going to be the return, how that's going to be split if you run into problems, how you're going to make decisions, what's going to be the deciding factor, things of that nature. Make sure you put that in writing and have an attorney take a look at it, make sure everything is good to go. Because I guarantee you when stuff pops up and you are thinking one way, but your partner might be thinking another, and you guys cannot come to an agreement, and you don't have anything written in writing and agreed upon, it definitely will cause problems. So my advice to anybody who's taking on a partner or getting funds from family and friends, it is a business. Treat it like a business transaction. Make sure that you have that documentation. It just saves so much trouble and so much heartbreak in the end. That way you already know, hey, this is how we handle each situation, things like that. So make sure you do have that. Okay. Next thing, documenting your business plan. All right, we're gonna spend a little time on business plans. And like we talked about before, business plans is just kind of your roadmap. Most business plans are usually 3 to 5 years, and you kind of map out what you want to do in those 3 to 5 years. So this is taking into account, what is your mission? What is your end goal? What is it that you're trying to accomplish with your business? How do you want people to perceive your business? And there is several steps in that business plan that you need to really give thought to, actually to the whole plan, but you definitely want to give thought to the financial. There's a financial section. There's, basically your staff and who you're going to employ. Your marketing plan, you definitely want to have a marketing plan. And then also your exit strategy. Definitely want to think about how to do an exit strategy. And I would say if you don't know how to do a business plan, there are several organizations that will help you do a business plan. I know the SBA is one, and then SCORE, SCORE, which is an organization. They definitely help. And they do it free. It's retired, if I'm not mistaken, retired business executives that will help you go through the process step by step. And they will look at your business plan, tell you where it's weak, where it's strong, things of that nature, and have you go through the whole thing. So that business plan basically makes you think about your business and what you want to actually have happen for the next 3 to 5 years. Does not necessarily mean the stuff is not going to change. Stuff does change all the time, but instead of you just out there kind of winging it, it gives you a path that you can go down. And if it changes, you can change up your business plan at any time. So I've done several of them. My business plan and my business model has changed over the years. So it's nothing that you have to stick to or get frustrated with because it's not going as planned, but it just gives you an idea and it makes you write down and your thoughts on what you want to have happen with your business. And some lenders may want to see that business plan. If not the whole business plan, they might just want to see your financials and all that you have allocated. What's your marketing plan? How much do you want to allocate for your marketing dollars? Things of that nature. And, your staff, if you are going to have a staff, they might want to see that information. So just really is best to be prepared as much as possible. I know it sounds like a lot of writing, a lot of documentation, a lot of research, but guess what? It is. But the more that you know and intimate with your own business, intimate with your own plan, your own financials, the better you can present to somebody else and bring your ideas clear, crisp, and be able to talk about them. And people understand what you're trying to do. Because if you just come to me and you don't really know what you're talking about, most people are not going to listen. And that is not what you want. You want to make sure that you're prepared and you know your business. Because this is your vision, it's your dream, it's what you want, your passion that you have for it. So definitely take it serious and put the time and effort into it. There is no time limit on it. It's as you want to work on it, and it's a goal. So it's not a race. It is actually a goal. But definitely you can even Google business plans. There's plenty of sites out there. There are professional business writers out there too that can help you, that you might have to pay a fee for, things of that nature, but definitely make sure you have a business plan. It makes you think about, even down to, what do you want, if you want a logo, what do you want your logo to be? How does it represent you? What colors do you want your logo to be? So it is a very just detailed plan of your business. Okay, identifying potential lenders to work with based upon your real estate strategy and personal circumstances. That's a lot, huh? Lenders. And that is one reason why we bought Miss Christie online. So you have another another source that you can get funds from. You have your regular banks, things like that. And you have your hard money lenders that we've talked about. But there are other organizations too that can help you and fund it. And as we go on, we are going to be getting that information. We're going to bring different people on to help you talk about where can you get funds at. We're going to have developed Louisville. We have US Bank that's going to come on. That's going to be probably next week, and talk about construction loans. Definitely next week, we're going to have L Home, which kind of does that gap funding. And basically gap funding just means that, hey, you got a loan for $70,000, but you need 100. So they will come in and fill that gap for that 30. So that's what gap funding is. And L Homes definitely works with small businesses and things like that to help. And they realized it was a niche and it was a need in our community, especially for small businesses that maybe you didn't really meet the criteria for regular lending. And because regular lending will only go so far and down so low. But L Homes kind of filled that gap and said, hey, we need to make a product that fills the gap to help these small businesses. So we'll have them on next week as well. So again, those are two resources, and other two resources that can help with funding. But as I tell my clients, you can always shop around. Call your loan officers. If you have a relationship with a bank and that you've been with for 15, 20 years, talk to them. Talk to the loan officers there. See what kind of products that they have. What kind of interest rates that they have. What do they offer, new developers or new construction, things like that or whatever. You can call around to different places and ask, what do they have? There's nothing wrong with that. You don't want them pulling your credit or anything like that, but you can ask what kind of products that they have. And trust me, they will be more than happy to tell you what they have. Also, other resources to find out financing and who's good and who's got what is definitely networking, talking to other people that are in the same field, which means it's going to be a little time and effort on your part to find out who can I network with, where are the other developers hanging out at, what organizations are they in, and we will be giving some information on that too. You do have to select the right lender for your project. And I say that because one company, one lender might be great for your single family home that you're going to rehab and flip. Another lender might have better rates on a construction because you're going to do a 4-apartment building, a complex. So they might have better rates, and you might even want to go to a hard money lender, just depending on what your project is. So don't pigeonhole yourself into just using one type of lender or one lender. You can spread it around and find out who is the right lender for your project. I will say, as you use the same lenders, you will start to get that relationship with that lender, that loan officer, and the more projects you do with them, they already kind of know what you're doing, how you're doing it, And if you do have previous loans with them and stuff like that, they can see that you're paying on time, things of that nature. So the process becomes a little bit easier. But again, don't pigeonhole yourself. Get out there, shop, ask questions, who's got what products, who's, got the best rates, things of that nature. The more information you get, the better you are, the better off you are. So I use that strategy. I definitely tell my clients to make sure that they shop around. Okay. Completing finance and pre-qualification requirements. Again, each lender, each program is different. So that's another reason why you want to get on there and either have a face-to-face or talk with the person that you are looking to get finance from and find out what are their pre-qualifications, what are their requirements. And then put yourself in the best possible light of making sure that you meet those pre-qualifications. Like I said, different lenders have different qualifications. Most are basically the same, but again, it could be something extra that they've added on that they want to see. So make sure that you just ask, hey, okay, you sound like you got a great product. What do I have to do to get qualified for it? What are your pre-qualifications? What do you need to see from me? Again, most of them, if you have not done a project, they probably will look at your personal credit first. So that's another reason, make sure that your credit is where it needs to be at. And then they're going to look at your personal finances as well. If you've got a company or already been renting homes and you got a cash flow and you can do P&Ls, they're definitely going to ask for that information. So it just really depends on what organization that you go with and what their pre-qualifications are. Any questions? Any questions that you might have on lending, anything like that? Anybody? Okay, we got a question. What was the name of the site for the business plan? Okay. For the business plans that can help you, and that's actually what they do, SCORE, S-C-O-R-E. If you just Google and put in SCORE, it will pull up that organization. And then you can also look to see if the SBA has a program that can help you with business plans as well. Now, I will say SBA is another resource for funds. They do have loans that they do give businesses as well. And then also, again, the city has not just the affordable housing, but the city, if you go on the city website as well, they might have some different loans and funding and things like that. It might be a small loan. It might be, a low interest rate loan, but be familiar with that. And that is another resource that you can go and look at funding as well. Okay. Let's see, any other questions? I'm sorry. S is in, what is S is in Sam, B is in boy, A is in apple, SBA. Sorry, guys, SBA. Okay. Yes, yes. Thank you, Ms. Jonisha. SCORE and SBA. Two great resources that you can use. And SBA does stand for Small Business Administration. Absolutely. Okay. All right. Moving right along. We got a little bit more time. One of the things that, I mentioned is networking, trying to find out where some of the investors and developers are. There are organizations that are out there that are specific to investors, to developers and things like that, where they kind of talk, get together, share projects, information, things like that. They are not free, and it might be a membership, or you can go, once to a meeting for a certain amount, things like that. One of the groups, and some people might already know about it, is CREA, and they meet out at Woodhaven. And you can actually Google CREA, K-R-E-I-A. And it is an organization that you can do a membership, or you can go, you know, whichever, anytime that you, they have a meeting, you just pay like a little small fee that day. But they do meet, and I want to say it's on Thursdays, I think once a month, out at Woodhaven. And they actually, it is a group, and they do have hard money lenders there on site. They do have different people that are working on projects, that are selling their projects, as far as, you know, if they selling property, land, things like that. You can actually go there and kind of network, talk to people, make connections, and maybe even get a partner or two. And it doesn't have to be a long-term partner. It could be a partner just for that project. But CREA definitely is probably one of the bigger organizations that people do join and network with and get a lot of information out of. And like I said, they do have hard money lenders that are actually there on site. You can talk to, ask them what their requirements are, what do they fund, and you do have to ask them, is there certain areas that they work in or don't work in? One in particular, I know that does not fund or do projects in the West End, and that is SharePoint. Last I checked, they don't. And SharePoint, they have done other projects in you know, the rest of the city, and I do know that there are people that have used SharePoint. And it was a good experience. So I'm not saying anything bad about anybody. It was a good experience. And they was able to get their project completed. And they are a hard money lender. Like I said, these are people that have put up their own money, and they pick and choose what projects that they want to do and fund. But that is one. And thank you, Sean. Sean put in the chat the information about CREA. Again, that's K-R-E-I-A. And it is every fourth Thursday of each month. The yearly amount is $125 or $25 a meeting, and $20 without the buffet. So they do feed you if you pay for the $25. And the food out at Woodhaven is pretty good. So you can go eat and mix and mingle. And it is a good resource. I've been several times. A lot of people that I know have been. So I would say if you can, try it once and see if it's something that interests you, that you might want to join on a regular basis, or just you want to go that one time and kind of gather some information. But that is definitely an organization that is out there for you. I would definitely say, I'll spell it again. Yes, ma'am. The initials is K-R, E as in Edward, I as in, yeah, thank you. K-R-E-I-A. CREA.
Kentucky Real Estate Investors Association.
There you go.
And I'm a member also.
Well, why am I not surprised?
It's all about learning.
Amen.
I joined last year.
What are your thoughts on it?
It's good. It's definitely worth it. I mean, $125. I mean, that's nothing. And for what you can get and the networking, you can meet with other people. And then also they have some resources online, some of the just in general information, some meeting information. There's a lot of good info online that they have within their closed group, and a Facebook group as well that you can chat with them also. So it's a good resource.
Absolutely. So that's one thing of meeting people, networking, making connections, finding out some information. Like I said, it is going to take you time and effort, but it is an investment. Your time is an investment, and it's truly probably one of the most important things that you have. So make sure that you do it wisely. Go ahead.
Everybody that I've talked to in there has been friendly except for one person, and he's just a grumpy old dude. So, but other than that, everybody's been cool.
Yeah, that's been my experience. You've been a member for years, Sean?
Yes, and I highly recommend it. Everything that has to deal with real estate is under that roof. You know, once you go to that meeting, there's contractors, there's lawyers, flippers, rehabbers, you know, people who buy and hold. I mean, I've been a member since 2013, and I highly recommend
Okay,
it. But it's a great organization.
absolutely, absolutely. Other resources, guys, is absolutely Facebook is a great resource. I know it's got other stuff on there, but you can find out a lot of stuff on Facebook. A lot of things come through there. And you can find different groups that are out there on Facebook, different projects, different people to connect with. So don't discount Facebook. Facebook has a lot of information out there. You just got to know how to use it wisely, and make connections and get information out of it. I definitely go through Facebook looking for different stuff and different information. Also, we talked about trade magazines and things like that, newspapers. Business First definitely is a huge one, and it's got a lot of information on it. Also, PVA has information, which is the property valuation, which is a part of the city. You can go on their website, learn information, and that is going to be an important part of your information and resource as well, because whenever they change up something, it is going to affect your property. The way they evaluate the property, if they do some rezoning, if any of that changes, it's going to change the value of your project. So it's always good to see what they're doing too and what's happening. I know I just read that they did certain zones last year, and then this year they reevaluating the other zones. So it definitely is a resource, and just for your information. That's one thing about being in real estate. You do have to stay abreast of what's happening, because those changes do affect your bottom line. It affects your project. It affects the information. It affects your buyers or your tenants. So make sure that you do subscribe to some of those trades, get some information, follow them on Facebook, anything like that, because you want to stay abreast of what's happening. So sometimes it's also good to have a real estate agent in your corner, just kind of keep you abreast on what's happening, just in case you don't know. They might know some additional information. Not saying that you have to use one, but hey, I'm an advocate for real estate agents. We can take a lot of stress off of you too, but definitely those are people that you want to talk to on a regular basis. And just if you see somebody building a house as you're driving through, stop, get out, make sure you stay safe though. Absolutely, stay safe, and ask who the builder is, who the developer is. See if you can get a name and telephone number, or if they out there. Also, that's a great way of finding out, hey, are you a contractor? Can I have your name and number? You might need them on one of your projects. So don't be afraid to get out there and talk to people. Worst people can say is, no, I'm not going to talk to you, and I'm not going to give you any information. Well, you just move on and you go to the next person. But most of the time that I found out, people do want to talk about their trade and want to tell you, and help you out and do things. They might not give you all their little secrets, but they at least get you started and help you. So unorthodox, stopping and talking to a builder or, somebody on the job site or whatever. Now, we're not saying have a whole hour conversation with them, because they need to get to work, but it's real quick and easy. See if you can talk to them, get their information, and that's just another resource that you have. So don't be afraid to talk to people. Don't be afraid to get out of your comfort zone, and find people that are in your same line of work that you want to do. If you know somebody in your family that flips or does, real estate and things like that, that's a great person to talk to. Anything like that that's going to put you where you need to be at. Can anybody think of any other place that maybe doesn't jump out at people right off the top, but you found that is really helpful and works? Anybody want to share? Nobody. If you ever had any work done to your house, dig those people out. And if they did a good job, hopefully they did a good job. But dig those people out and talk to them, see if they still are in the business, and see if you can form a relationship with them as well. Because you're going to need all those people, contractors, real estate agents. Go ahead,
Facebook
Will.
groups. There's some free investor groups on Facebook. Some of them you can find out who not to use in those groups. So I definitely will follow some of them, as you can find out some information on some people. And you can always put the question in there and ask. It's just unfortunate I haven't had a project yet, so I haven't went through it yet. But when I do find out, I'll share.
Absolutely. That's the flip side. Absolutely. Another great resource, if you put in there, hey, I'm looking for such and such, or do you have any recommendations? They are quick to tell you who they do recommend and who not to deal with. Now, I would still say do your own due diligence, but if you've got 10 people saying don't use such and such, then it's probably not a good idea. But still do your due diligence, do your research, and keep that information in mind. But like I said, Facebook, it can be a great tool if you use it properly, and you can get a lot of information out of it. Everything you can't believe, but it leads you in the right direction. And of course, you still got to do your homework on it and find out. But absolutely, you're absolutely right, Will. They will be quick to tell you who not to use as well, which is a good thing because you want to know that information as well. Any other resources that anybody can think of? Or networking might be helpful. I know there was, and I don't know if they're doing it this month, but if they do, I will find out. There was a Black investors kind of networking event that was happening at Joe's Palm Room. They was doing it once a month. They did it the last 2 months. I will find out if they are doing it this month and share that information with you. But it was just kind of, open to the public. Anybody can come in. They do have speakers there to kind of tell about their experience and try to give you information on getting started and what to look out for. It gives you opportunity to ask questions. So definitely, if you see anything that is like that, a meetup or an event, go to those. If, of course, still stay safe. Some people want to get out, some people don't. But look online for different information, and if they have those kind of events or whatever, you might want to go and again, network. Networking is key, and get information and find out for yourself what's going on out there.
Oh, I did think of one. Go to supply houses. We talked about like Home Depot and stuff like that before, but like if you're needing a roof done, you can go to the locations that sell the supplies to the contractors and not your regular big box stores. You can go there, and then they have a lot of list of people that they work with, and you can get some recommendations, and you actually can run into a bunch of them picking up supplies there. In particular, roofing and plumbing are the two that I've for some other things that I've talked to people at those locations and found some good contacts.
Absolutely. Like I said, those are the best places. Wherever they hang out, you can go, and they'll be happy to pick up business too. Let's see, of course, the Courier Journal, they have information as far as what's going on with real estate, properties that's being sold, being bought, what's out there. I don't even know if people still use Craigslist, but Craigslist used to at least have some information out there on properties and who's selling what, things like that. You just have to be careful, and like I said, do your due diligence. And I will say, absolutely, the area that you're thinking about, just start riding through, see if there's any development already happening in that area, and stop and kind of talk to people and things like that. Talk to neighbors, talk to people that already live in the area, see what's going on. So it definitely takes you getting out there, talking to people, being visible. That's just as important as you doing your finances, because when you put all that information together, that's going to play a part on how and what you want to do with your project. So again, you have to know what you want to do with that project and how big you want it, how small, what area, and things of that nature to put it all together. So don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Just push yourself a little bit, and we'll all be here to help you too. So this is definitely a resource for you. We are going to have more resources as things come along. But any other questions? And thank you, Will, for putting that information out there. That's a group that he put in the chat. And it's a Facebook group, so feel free to take a look at that and check it out. Any questions? Questions? All right, all right. Well, we are a little early. I do want to say that is all I have for today. Of course, we're going to have a lot more information next, Wednesday. Actually, Wednesday, like I said, we will have US Bank talking about construction loans, and we will have L Homes here to talk about more financing. And then we will go over different items for our March 9th class. So still a lot more information to come. Hopefully this has been helpful to you. And if you need anything or if you have questions, let us know. That's what we're here for. We're here to help. We're here to share information and ideas. And if we don't know, we would definitely find out. So no question is too big or too small. We encourage interaction. Take a look at those resources. Challenge yourself. Anything that you need or you need from us, let's talk about it and let's get it taken care of. Any other questions that you guys feel like you need to talk about or want to know about before we jump on?
I have a quick question.
Sure. Yes, ma'am.
So once we decide what our niche is, say we decide we want to do development ground up, are there other resources available that can help us know like what certifications are needed or like steps that need to be taken, like some type of training that would be available for that?
Okay, absolutely. We are going to, and one of our partners is One West, and they have the planning room, and they do training for people that want to be in construction. So I think that'll be a resource for us as far as telling us if we need training on that, or how can we get some people to talk to us about what exactly do we need if we're going to do ground up, if that makes sense. So yes, ma'am, we'll definitely make sure that we get them on the line and give us some information on how to do ground up. And, you know, what resources do we need? What kind of things do we need to be looking out for? So anything that they can tell us on construction. So we'll have the construction financing information next week, and then we'll make sure that as soon as we can get somebody from the plan room, and then we've got a couple of other guests that do construction as well, and we'll get them on the line as well to help us out with it. So great question. Yes, ma'am. We'll make sure we have that information for you. Any other questions or any other resource or question that you think we need?
I have a question.
Sure.
How do we download the PowerPoint that they?
The one from today?
Yes.
As soon as she's gonna correct some information on there, and what happened is she's gonna send it to us, and we'll have it on our Google Drive. So with all the other information, so you won't have to. You can just go to our Google Drive, and all the information and resources will be there.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
And she said she'll also email a copy out. So we would definitely get that taken care of too. All right. Anything else? Well, we won't hold you just to be holding you. We hope that you enjoyed it and found it beneficial. And we will see everybody, God's will, on Wednesday, same time, same bat channel. And we hope you have a good evening and a good night. Is anybody want to say anything before we leave?
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, everybody.
All right. Enjoy, you guys, and I'll see you soon.
Bye.